This right here is the Apple AirPods Pro 3. That's right, we finally have it here at the SoundGuys office. We know you've been waiting for this review, but we have been spending the last few days testing this endlessly, listening to the earbuds, trying out every single feature Apple has packed into these earbuds, all to end up here so that we could share our full thoughts and let you know if this is really worth an upgrade from the last generation, or if Apple's just doing way too much and forgotten what it's like to actually just make a good pair of earbuds. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, because honestly, this video is gonna be a long one. Can't wait to edit it. All right, let's talk about one of the biggest changes, the design. Now, at first glance, it doesn't look that different from the AirPods Pro 2. It still has the white plastic design. It looks like a pair of AirPods. Even the case looks pretty similar. But the thing is, there are a lot of little changes that Apple has made to the design that is supposed to have a big impact on how these feel in your ears. In fact, one of the most common questions I got on Reddit and YouTube was whether or not the AirPods Pro 3 fit better than the AirPods Pro 2. The answer to that is yes and no. It's complicated, let me explain. Apple actually shrank the earbuds. The bulb housing the speaker driver is a bit smaller on the AirPods Pro 3 compared to its predecessor. And with this smaller bulb, it just means that the earbuds are less likely to pop out of your ears, since they're less likely to push against your concha, or like the inner part of your ear here. Now, because the bulb is smaller, this also means that people with smaller ears should have an easier time wearing the AirPods Pro 3. It should fit more comfortably and feel less likely to pop out. And if you look really closely, you'll notice that the bulb of the AirPods Pro 3 stretches a little further away from the stem compared to the previous generation, and this allows the AirPods Pro 3 to sit deeper in your ear canal, which should help provide a better seal and thus help provide more consistent ANC and sound quality performance. When I put it in my ears, I could feel the difference. They felt less likely to come out of my ears just by wearing them, so good job, Apple. Now, as great as those adjustments are, I was most excited for the new ear tips that Apple was bundling with the AirPods Pro 3. Apple developed these new foam-infused ear tips that are supposed to combine the best of foam ear tips and silicone ear tips. By using a foam interior, the ear tips are supposed to be more compressive and should more easily conform to the shape of your ear canal. Meanwhile, the silicone exterior helps protect the delicate foam from degradation due to things like sweat and oil. Now, I was really excited to try out the new ear tips on the AirPods Pro 3, especially since I'm somebody who can't get the AirPods Pro 2 to stay in my ears when using the stock silicone ear tips. In order for me to actually use the AirPods Pro 2 on a daily basis, I had to switch out to foam ear tips from companies like Comply and Foam Masters. Finally, I don't have to use third-party accessories anymore. And after trying on the AirPods Pro 3, I realized it didn't fix the problem. Unfortunately, these foam-infused ear tips are not the miracle solution I was looking for. Now, it's not to say that these ear tips are useless. They do in fact provide a better fit experience for me compared to the AirPods Pro 2. When I put the AirPods Pro 3 in my ears, I find that they do stay in place when I'm sitting at my desk or when I'm walking down the street. Previously with AirPods Pro 2, the earbuds would just start falling off on their own with the stock ear tips. So there is an improvement. However, because the AirPods still use this glossy plastic exterior for the bulb, and because the outside of the ear tips is still silicone, I find that the earbuds slowly start to slide out when I start to have more sweat and oil on my skin, which occurs when I'm working out. Now, big disclaimer here. Everybody's ear anatomy and skin type is different. You might have oilier skin than mine, or less oily skin than mine. You might have a different ear shape to me. You might have better luck with Apple's new ear tips and bulb design than I did. But if you had fit issues with the AirPods Pro 2, then I don't want you thinking that the AirPods Pro 3 are gonna be a miracle solution to your fit problems with the previous generation. There's a chance they still might not fit you well. You might feel an improvement, but they might not 100% solve your stability issues like it happened with me. They really do feel comfortable if you can get them to stay in your ear. Which leads me to the one thing I wish Apple did, which is instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, i.e. combine the best of foam and silicone ear tips, I kind of wish Apple just stuck a bunch of memory foam ear tips in the box and called it a day. Once third-party manufacturers come out with memory foam ear tips for the AirPods Pro 3, you'd be damn sure I'm switching to those. The foam-infused ear tips are a good idea, and I honestly applaud Apple for trying to blend the best of both worlds. But for people like me who had fit issues with AirPods Pro 2, I really wish Apple just went super basic and just did foam all the way, or included both foam and silicone ear tips in the box. But considering the fact that they're not including a charging cable with the AirPods Pro, I don't think they're really keen on adding anything to the box. So yes, the AirPods Pro 3 do feel more comfortable, but do they provide a more stable or secure fit? That I can't fully determine for you. You really should try it out at your nearest Apple store or Best Buy or wherever you buy your earbuds. Now, when it comes to the charging case, it remains relatively unchanged, except for the fact that there is no more physical pairing button on the back. Instead, you've got a capacitive touch sensor on the front of the device, similar to the AirPods 4 and 4 with active noise cancellation. By tapping on the front, you're able to do things like pair to other devices or factory reset the device. Now, this is a minor change, and honestly, it's not that bad, although I do find myself questioning whether or not the case actually registered my taps, but that's just the woes of capacitive touch sensors in general. They just don't provide the same level of feedback as a physical button would. Now, despite being Apple's latest flagship earbuds in 2025, we still don't have support for high-quality Bluetooth codecs. You are still limited to using SBC and AAC, which honestly is going to be fine for most people, but don't expect to be able to stream lossless audio on Spotify or Apple Music with your earbuds. Now, all the connections and audio processing are handled by the H2 chip that is in the AirPods Pro 3. That's right, it's still using the same chipset as the AirPods Pro 2, but honestly, that's fine. The fact that Apple was still able to pack so many features into these earbuds, like the heart rate sensor and live translation, and still use the same chipset, I mean, that's pretty good. Of course, in order to get the most out of your AirPods Pro 3, you will need to be paired to an Apple device, like an iPhone or a MacBook Pro or an iPad. If you try to pair this on Android, all you're really going to be able to do is listen to music. You can't even update the firmware on Android, so yeah, if you're an Android user, this is probably not the earbuds for you. Sorry. Now, in terms of connection performance, I thought that overall, these did a pretty good job in day-to-day use, except for a few problems that I encountered when I initially paired to the earbuds. I noticed that the earbuds wouldn't automatically pair to my iPhone or MacBook Pro, even though those devices were very much on. And so I had to manually select the AirPods Pro 3 from my device list. A little bit annoying, but it only really happened in the first 3 days, and it hasn't done that to me since. Also, occasionally and out of nowhere, the earbuds would just suddenly pan the audio towards the right side, creating a bit of a channel imbalance, which was really annoying. And the way I had to fix that was I had to take off the earbuds, put them back in the charging case, then take them out, and then the problem would resolve itself. It happened to me about once or twice, and again, that kind of happened in the first few days of testing, but after my 3rd day with the AirPods, that problem never came up again. So I'm just hoping this is kind of just a case of launch day bugs and not a foreshadowing of what's to come. Alright, now let's get into some of the big highlight features that Apple gave the AirPods Pro 3, starting with the heart rate sensor. So following in the footsteps of earbuds like the Beats Powerbeats Pro 2, the AirPods Pro 3 now have a heart rate sensor, which you'll find towards the back of the bulb, and this allows you to track your workouts with your AirPods instead of needing a third-party fitness tracker like an Apple Watch or a chest strap. Now, I was able to test the heart rate sensor by doing a couple different exercises, and I found that the earbuds did a really good job in tracking my heart rate during a brisk walk or a light jog. And I was also surprised to see that the heart rate sensor on the AirPods Pro was matching the results on the heart rate sensor on my Apple Watch, so that was pretty cool. However, I did run into problems with the heart rate sensor when I was doing more vigorous exercises. Now, you have to understand that the quality of data that you get from the heart rate sensor is going to depend largely on whether or not you can get a good fit from the AirPods Pro 3. And as I explained earlier, during intense workouts, the earbuds tend to slip out of my ear. And as that happens, my skin loses contact with the heart rate sensor, which can result in erroneous or bad quality data. And it can also result in the heart rate sensor just saying that there's no reading because it knows that it's not touching my ear properly. Apple even says on this website that your results may vary depending on how good your fit is. If you're somebody who can maintain a good fit with the AirPods Pro 3, then it's likely that you'll be able to get good workout data out of the heart rate sensor in the earbuds. And if you find yourself constantly having fit issues with your AirPods Pro 3 while working out, then you're better off tracking your workouts with something like an Apple Watch or like a Polar chest strap. Alternatively, if you really want earbuds with heart tracking sensors, then you might want to consider something like the Beats Powerbeats Pro 2, which uses an ear hook design to maintain a proper and secure fit, or even something like the Sennheiser Momentum Sport Wireless, which has an ear fin to ensure a secure fit. This feature is cool, and it's honestly great knowing that you can track your workouts without the need for another accessory except your earbuds while listening to music. But again, if you can't get a good fit, then what's the point? Next up, hearing aid features. So this feature is not new at all because it was introduced originally with the AirPods Pro 2, but of course Apple is bringing it to the AirPods Pro 3, and it works pretty much the same way. You take a hearing test on your iPhone or iPad, and after you've done that, the earbuds will automatically tune your AirPods based on the results of your hearing test. From there, you're able to control features like amplification, channel balance, tone, and ambient noise reduction. The earbuds can also provide hearing protection, which kind of turns your AirPods into a pair of earplugs. And honestly, this is such a great feature if I forget to bring my earplugs from home when I go to a concert or a club and it's just a little too loud. You pop the AirPods in and they'll be able to reduce the loudness of outside noise by a further 10 decibels, which is good in protecting your hearing. Now, we're currently in the process of testing the AirPods Pro 3's hearing aid features a little bit more, so if you want to know more about the hearing aid features, but on the AirPods Pro 2, then check out my article on SoundGuys.com right here. Alright, next up, live translation. Now, this one I was quite excited to test because Apple made a very big deal about this in their keynote. Now, Apple is not the first company to offer real-time translation in their earbuds, but Apple is making some bold claims saying that it's going to provide a magical experience as you talk to somebody who speaks a different language from you and then they talk back. Like, it's supposed to just be magical. However, the experience is anything but magical. In fact, I feel like after testing this out, live translation has still got a long way to go before it hits prime time. Now, to test this, I had a conversation with somebody who spoke French here at the SoundGuys office. To activate live translation, all I had to do was press and hold both the earbuds. The AirPods automatically switch to transparency mode so that I can hear the person who's trying to speak to me. Now, as my coworker started speaking to me in French, the AirPods slowly transitioned into kind of a light ANC mode so that I could hear the English translation in my ears clearly. And after hearing the translation, the earbuds switch back to transparency mode so that I can hear myself talk. I gotta give Apple some credit here because the AirPods do a really good job in transitioning between the different listening modes. Voices sound really clear, and the transitions between transparency mode and ANC didn't feel jarring, which is great. Unfortunately, using live translation isn't as seamless as Apple made it out to be in the keynote. As I tried to have a conversation with my French-speaking colleague, I just noticed a delay that creates really awkward silences as I wait to hear the translated speech. Because they'll speak to me in French, then I have to wait like 3 to 4 seconds of just pure silence before I hear the translation in my ear. And now, mind you, this is just like in a somewhat testing environment. This is a very low stakes environment. But if I'm out in the world trying to use this feature in France, I feel like that's just gonna create a really awkward dynamic with a stranger, and my social anxiety cannot handle that. Also, while trying to speak to my French-speaking colleague, other people speaking in the office would actually interrupt the translation. The AirPods would start trying to translate other people's speech, even though they were already speaking in English, and that would just mess up the translation that I'm hearing in my ear, which got really annoying. So imagine if I was in a market in France, I don't know, or in a foreign country, and I'm trying to speak to somebody, but all the speech around me is interfering with the translation. Then I'll get frustrated. I see what Apple's trying to do, but right now, just as is, I'm not fully confident in the feature. I don't feel confident enough to try this feature on my next travels. This translations simply don't come fast enough for me to have a good enough flow in the conversation. It's cool that earbuds are able to do this, but it's just not like the Star Trek level of real-time translation that we're all hoping for. Not yet, at least. Also, live translation is missing some widely spoken languages like Mandarin and Hindi. And I mean, come on, kyun? Hindi kahan hai? Main Bollywood pyar karte hu. That's why I'm trying to learn. Now, as of recording this video, Apple Live Translation only supports 6 languages. That's English UK, English US, French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish, a majority of which you'll notice are European languages, and is kind of ironic because live translation isn't available for EU residents. So, bring on the Hindi and Mandarin, Apple! Now, for as much as I'm criticizing live translation, I do have to acknowledge that the feature is very much in beta. So we'll likely see performance improvements and more language support over time. As it stands, there is no one company that has absolutely nailed real-time translation on their earbuds. So is Apple going to be the first one to do it? I don't know. They have a good chance because AirPods are really popular, but we'll have to see if they follow suit in the software front. Now, when it comes to battery life, Apple touted improvements with this generation over the previous, and yes, we can confirm that that is true. In our standardized battery tests, the Apple AirPods Pro 3 lasted 8 hours and 42 minutes on a single charge with ANC on. Now, this represents a significant improvement over the AirPods Pro 2, which clocked in our tests at around 5 hours and 43 minutes. So you're basically getting, 3 hours more on the AirPods Pro 3, so that's awesome. So rest assured, the AirPods Pro 3 does have more than enough battery to last a few days worth of commutes before you need to charge. Now, for when you do need to charge, the case can be charged wired via USB-C or wirelessly, and you can also charge using your Apple Watch charger if you so choose. The earbuds also support quick charging, where 5 minutes in the case should yield about an hour of playback. Now, AirPods historically had some of the best microphones that we've heard on a pair of true wireless earbuds. I don't think you're going to record like a song using the microphone on an AirPods, but with the AirPods Pro 3, I think the microphone sounds really good, especially in ideal conditions. I mean, I am right now paired to my iPhone 15 Pro, and I'm recording through voice memos, and it's technically set to automatic, but considering that I'm in a pretty ideal environment, it's probably likely that you're hearing me with the standard microphone mode on the AirPods Pro 3. So how do I sound? Let me know in the comments. All right, so for this next quick microphone test, I've got a bunch of noise playing out of my laptop here. This is literally just an hour's worth of traffic noise. This is a complete traffic jam because I want to show you guys what the AirPods Pro 3 mic sounds like in standard mode in a loud environment versus voice isolation mode. So when you're taking a call, the microphone should automatically switch to voice isolation if you're in a loud environment. On voice memos, I just had to go into the input setting and force voice isolation on. So right now you're listening to me in a very much simulated traffic environment or street environment, just so you can get an idea of how the earbuds perform. Mind you, the laptop is really close to me, and it is pretty loud from where I'm sitting right now. But what do you guys think? How do you think this sounds? Again, I'm paired to my iPhone 15 Pro here, recording through voice memos with voice isolation on. How does this sound? Let me know. Now, this right here, what you're hearing, is not part of our standardized microphone samples. If you want to hear the AirPods Pro 3's microphone in our standardized suite of tests and compare them to the other earbuds we've tested, then I highly recommend you check out our full review on SoundGuys.com. All right, active noise cancellation. Now, Apple made a big deal about the improved ANC performance on the AirPods Pro 3, and we were a little skeptical here at SoundGuys because the AirPods Pro 2 already had great ANC, and so we were wondering how much further they could take the ANC performance on their new earbuds. And damn, they improved it. They really did improve it. We tested these earbuds in our labs, and we can confidently say that the AirPods Pro 3 offer among the best noise cancellation we've ever tested in a pair of earbuds. Our lab tests show that the AirPods Pro 3 can reduce the loudness of outside noise by an average of 90%. For reference, our previous champion of the noise cancelling earbuds category was the Jabra Elite 10 Gen 2, which reduced the loudness of outside noise by about 86%. Now, the difference between 86 and 90 isn't gigantic, but numbers don't lie. I mean, Apple really did a good job with the ANC performance on the AirPods Pro 3. And that just means that the AirPods Pro 3 are more than capable of quieting chatty coworkers, noisy neighbors, or your next commute, whether by land, air, or sea. And honestly, with this ANC performance combined with the improved battery life, the AirPods Pro 3 are looking like a viable option for people who travel across the Atlantic. If you want something more compact, this should last you the journey and quiet the airplane cabin that you're in. Now, isolation has also been improved over the previous generation, mainly thanks to the improved fit and the new foam-infused ear tips. The earbuds also offer an improved transparency mode, and honestly, I was really impressed with how far Apple has come with their transparency mode. Their first iteration was already pretty good, but the transparency mode on the AirPods Pro 3 is excellent. Voices come through very clearly, and it honestly doesn't sound like I have anything in my ears when I'm listening with transparency mode enabled. It's really easy to carry a conversation with somebody, and honestly, well done to Apple on that. Now, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but you need to remember that in order to actually get the best ANC performance possible, you're gonna need to have a good fit with the earbuds. Now, if you have the AirPods Pro 3 and you're struggling to get a good fit, then you'll wanna try the different ear tip sizes that come in the box. See which ones works for you. Might even find that you need to do one size for the right and a different size for the left. That's pretty common. Now, to be really sure if you're getting a good fit, you could also use Apple's acoustic seal or fit test in the settings app to help determine which ear tip sizes best suits your ear. Now, this review, as you can tell from the runtime, is already pretty beefy. So I hope you're not a vegan or a vegetarian, because it's about to get even more beefy, because we're gonna be talking about sound quality. Apple in particular says that they've redesigned the acoustic chamber of the AirPods Pro 3 to deliver improved bass response and stereo performance. Now, is any of that true? Sort of, but one thing is for sure. I think that the AirPods Pro 3 sound pretty good. Now, to talk about the sound quality, I want to start first with my subjective experience before going into our lab data. First of all, I think that the improved sound quality of the AirPods Pro 3 is pretty evident in songs with heavy reverb, such as Party For You by Charlie XCX. What a freaking banger, by the way. Now, during the first half of that song, there's a lot of reverb applied to the vocals and synths, and I honestly thought that that reverb sounded very detailed coming through the AirPods Pro 3, and because of the prominent reverb, it's not like it's just masking everything, but because I can hear such good detail, it helps create a great illusion of 3D space. I also found that the AirPods Pro 3 did a good job in reproducing bass sounds like the kick drums and bass synth stabs without overpowering all the other instruments. Bass-heavy songs such as Codeine by Air 808 and Nasty, the AirPods Pro 3 produce good detail in the bass without making 808s and growling synth sounds sounding overly boomy. Like, you can hear the attack, the kicks are punchy, but it's not masking any of the other instruments like vocals or pianos. Speaking of which, vocals and piano sounds, despite being performed at very similar octaves, sound clean and are easily distinguishable in the mix. They don't get lost from all that low end in the song. And there is a lot of low end in that song. Listen to it, it's pretty good. Both of the songs that I mentioned, Party For You and Codeine, also have a lot of reverb in them, and a lot of the creative intention seems to create this illusion of a wide, big space, and I honestly think that does translate better on the AirPods Pro 3 than the AirPods Pro 2. I just feel that the AirPods Pro 3 have better left-right separation and just a wider stereo image compared to the AirPods Pro 2, which I really like, because in order to get a similar result in the AirPods Pro 2, I had to turn on spatialized stereo and use the virtual surround sound or Apple Spatial audio algorithm to kind of create a wider stereo image. Now, while I personally enjoy the tuning of the AirPods Pro 3, I did find the bass output just a little louder than I would prefer, especially since a lot of my playlists lately are very bass heavy, a lot of hard techno, a lot of EDM in there. I think that the amount of bass produced by the AirPods Pro 3 is fine for like a 30-minute listening session, so like a commute to and from work. But I did find that that bass output can become a bit fatiguing after a few hours of listening, so I kind of feel like I needed to take a break when listening at my desk after working on scripts and stuff. Now, I really wish Apple included some way for me to turn down the bass, via an EQ, but we're not getting that. We still haven't gotten that. Who knows if Apple will ever give us that, because if I could just turn down the bass a little bit, I think this would just be perfect for me, for in-ears. Again, that's just my personal preference. To put it more succinctly, I found that the AirPods Pro 3 had more bass output, better treble extension and more treble emphasis, and a wider stereo image than the AirPods Pro 2. And I honestly do prefer the tuning of the AirPods Pro 3 over the AirPods Pro 2, even though I find the bass output of the AirPods Pro 3 just a little bit more than I'd prefer. Now, in addition to listening to music, I also tested out Apple Spatial Audio on the AirPods Pro 3 by watching some movies. And honestly, Apple Spatial Audio is good. It is still my personal favorite implementation of virtual surround sound in a pair of earbuds. In films like Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, the earbuds made it sound as if helicopters moving out of frame were hovering past my right shoulder, which was really cool. And even in the busiest of action scenes, I can easily distinguish voices from the orchestral score, explosions, and the myriad of motorcycles getting flipped by Tom Cruise and his pals. If you're a big fan of watching movies in immersive formats like Dolby Atmos, then you'll probably enjoy how Apple Spatial Audio sounds on the AirPods Pro 3. Alright, enough of my experience though. I know what you're here for. You want to see charts. Now, one thing first, remember that charts aren't everything. It is a good indicator of what to expect, but it is not the end-all or be-all of determining sound quality. That being said, this was a to measure. We still did measure the earbuds, so we're going to throw the charts up here. But there are a few things you need to know. First of all, due to the chart smoothing and the way that the DSP works, the chart that you're seeing here might not be exactly what you hear when you pop the AirPods Pro 3 into your ears. However, what we can say is that when using an iPhone for your music, the onboard processing is very good at adjusting to your music in real time. However, we did notice that the frequency response we measured looked quite similar even after playing noise samples and music. So the main inconsistencies are that the 6 kHz peak is quieter and narrower than it appears on the above chart, and the 13 kHz peak reaches slightly closer to our target. However, I wouldn't write off this chart entirely because there are some consistent themes between the chart and my personal listening experience. For example, the bass and mids are pretty much spot on in the chart above, complete with a small dip just after 100 Hz relative to both. Now, this dip makes the sub bass seem a little louder than it actually is relative to the upper bass, which matches my impressions. Similarly, there's also a tiny dip at 1 kHz at that transition between the high mids and the ear gain hump. Now, what's not obvious here is that the 6 kHz peak is a bit wider in this chart than it should be because each channel, left and right, dealt with our test head a little wonkily. Now, perhaps due to the adaptive EQ feature, the peak in each channel for this range was slightly offset, so the average between each of these channels ended up looking more significant than it actually is. Now, in addition to some of the discoveries we found trying to measure the frequency response, an interesting issue we found with the AirPods Pro 3 is that the sensor on the AirPods, the wear detection sensor, absolutely must come close enough to your ear to detect wear, which unfortunately is not a guarantee if you can't get a good fit. Now, if you can't get a good fit and the wear detection sensor can't detect that you're getting a good fit, then some weird things can happen to the sound. For example, if your earbuds are starting to slip out or the wear detection sensor isn't making proper contact with your ear, then you might notice that there could be a big old bump in the high bass, low mids relative to the highs, which is not ideal. It might make your music sound like it's a bit too bassy than you'd prefer. And this is why I keep repeating the fact that fit matters. I mean, it's not exclusive to the AirPods. Fit matters for every earbud that you wear. And if you can't get a good fit, then you're never going to get the best performance out of your earbuds. So make sure that you're just getting a good fit. If you find that the earbuds are falling out, then unfortunately you might have to resort to a third-party solution like a third-party ear hook or ear fin that kind of goes on top of the earbuds. Now, for as much as I can show you these charts and also talk about my personal listening experience, at the end of the day, you're going to be the best judge of what sounds good because you have different preferences to me. You have different preferences to our own preference curve, for goodness sake. So if you really want a definite answer as to whether or not you're going to enjoy this, then you'll want to go to the Apple Store and just ask an employee to let you demo a pair of AirPods. All right, now the $250 question. Should you buy the AirPods Pro 3? Well, if you own the AirPods Pro 2, or you're an Apple user looking for a pair of earbuds, then yeah, this is honestly worth considering. And honestly, it does have enough features to warrant an upgrade if you've used the AirPods Pro 2. In my opinion, I think Apple's latest earbuds offer really good sound quality and class-leading noise-canceling performance that makes listening to music very enjoyable no matter where you are, even if you're on the screechiest of subway cars. Additionally, features like the heart rate sensor and hearing assistance and live translation do allow the AirPods Pro 3 to stand out from other more expensive flagship earbuds. Mind you, the Sony WF-1000XM5 and the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra earbuds 2nd gen are more expensive than the AirPods Pro 2 and kind of offer less features. Like, you don't get real-time translation on those buds, you don't get hearing aid features. The AirPods Pro do. But for as good as the AirPods Pro 3 are, they are far from perfect. For starters, Android users will still never be able to take advantage of the full feature set of the AirPods Pro 3 because Apple refuses to offer that kind of support. Also, it's 2025 and Apple still doesn't trust users enough to give us an EQ to tune the earbuds to our liking. Also, while the redesigned earbud housing and memory-infused foam ear tips do help create a more comfortable wearing experience, it doesn't really fix the stability issues I had with the previous generation. I still find myself needing to replace the ear tips with just proper memory foam ear tips, but I gotta wait for that to be sold on Amazon. Also, some features like live translation still need more refining before it can really be taken seriously as a selling point. Again, I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this just for live translation, and you shouldn't either. If you're an Apple device owner, you're used to Apple's walled garden, and you're looking for earbuds, this is going to fit in nicely with your device ecosystem. It just offers so much for that price. It's not cheap, but I think it's a worthwhile investment and cheaper than some big flagships out there anyway. But what do you think about the AirPods Pro 3? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you have any specific questions you want answered in the comments? Let us know down below. But until then, if you want to learn more about the best earbuds you can buy in 2025, then I highly recommend you check out this video right here.